and it is Fridays in Fintech. Welcome, Colin. Great to have you here. We have Colin Darke on.
Thanks, Jake. Great to be here.
Yeah, so a little bit, well, on Fridays in Fintech, we talk a little bit about uh, everything in fintech, from compliance to lending to legal. And today we're going to be focusing on AI, compliance, regulation, what's coming in the space and what's being built in the space as well. We have a very, very exciting guest. A little bit about Colin. He spent 20 years legal, compliance, and fintech. But what's interesting, he first got a degree in fine arts, then a law degree from Michigan State. He went on to become an associate general counsel, vice president of Flagstar Bank, I believe, and also then became the chief compliance officer, general counsel of Rocket Loans, which spun out of the Rocket family, played an integral part in the fintech arm, both as an executive team and worked with the board. And he helped everything from compliance, legal, servicing, operations, marketing, and the technology divisions. He's also now serving as a senior advisor to the American Fintech Council, and he's also the CEO of Colin Darke Solutions, focusing on actionable, practical compliance solutions. And he's also working on something very unique that we will get a little bit into. But Colin, welcome to Fridays in Fintech.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
background.
So Colin, we like doing the hard questions starting out. So, do you prefer pineapple on pizza?
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
100%. I prefer pineapple on pizza.
Is,
It's
is that
sweet.
your
It
good? Yeah.
helps. I don't understand why people get so opinionated about it, but it's probably my favorite topping on pizza, just to even mess
Really?
with people. Yeah.
Those are strong words.
I'm going to get some hate email, like you bastard. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
it belongs there for sure.
yeah. I agree as well. I think it's maybe not my favorite. I'd say I'm more of a first try the margarita, but sweet and salty, perfect mix. No,
I will
interesting.
say my family and I went to Italy this past summer, and we had a lot of pizza in Rome, and I never asked for pineapple on pizza, and the pizza there was just phenomenal. So
Yeah.
I guess it's a spot, but a lot of times my go-to, especially if it's like Domino's, will be the Hawaiian pizza.
Domino's, I think Domino's, they're the best at that. And it's kind of funny. We had someone on last week, Faraz, and he's just like, I just love Domino's pizza, man. As a New Yorker, it's you're not supposed to say that, but
You are. So
uh,
I said I'm in Detroit, Michigan. So
yeah,
that's where Domino's and Little Caesars. We have like the pizza wars here, and then
no
Buddies
way.
and like deep dish Detroit pizza. I was kind of harassing somebody on Facebook yesterday, who was saying that they had the best Detroit style pizza they've ever had in Florida.
Really?
It's can't say that. Uh,
That's funny. That's funny. Well, transitioning into kind of your background, you were a lawyer. I saw you were also, I guess you called like an associate researcher at Harvard Law, and then kind of you went to into finance, right? What was really that journey like, and where you're like, oh yeah, this is like legal and finance and in banking. That sounds exciting.
exactly. Even when you say it, it's like pineapple on pizza. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
I was actually right out of law school. I joined a boutique bankruptcy law firm that one of my friends was working at as a law clerk, and they had someone quit, and I had realized I needed to find a job in Michigan. I was planning to move to Illinois and I took the Illinois bar. So it was kind of fortuitous. We were at a dinner with them, and they're like, "Oh, the partner just quit," and we're kind of in a lurch. I'm like, "Oh, give them my resume because I need a job now." So I started. That was my very first job out of law school, and it was working for Chapter 7 trustees, and I was able to get exposed to the gamut of bankruptcy reorg matters.
Mm.
And through that, I realized I was enjoying more of the Chapter 11, the reorg um, you know, bankruptcy matters, and they get pretty complicated. And at that point, all the clauses and the contractual terms that you kind of see in when you're doing a transaction, they actually get tested, and you kind of see what relationships actually mean once everything goes south. And I was really interested in that. So then my wife is a doctor, and she matched in Boston, and so we moved to Boston, after a couple of years of practicing law in Michigan, and I decided, I wanted to get more into the finance realm so I could get more of those type of cases. So I I was going to do an MBA, and I talked to Boston University professor, and they were saying, you could take classes at the business school and classes by attorneys that are actually in the field practicing at this LLM and banking and finance program. And the program seemed great. I talked to the director, who is Con Hurley, who, if you're familiar with the Online Lending Policy Institute, that's a kind of like think tank that I helped form, that is now the American Fintech Council. So it merged with Marketplace Lending Association. But, years after doing the program at BU, I always kept in touch with Con Hurley. So I reached out to him when I wanted to create this organization. And so it was created between me and Rocket Loans, Cross River Bank, who is like a huge platform in the space, and Boston University. And so we kind of started the summit that's in DC every year. So that's where that started, and we started doing that to help educate regulators and just bring thought leaders together, so we could all brainstorm together on where certain the industry was going. And we were surprised, like right out of the gate, we were able to get a lot of policymakers, which made it that much more interesting.
That's super fascinating. It's kind of funny, and I think we're going into this new shift, or maybe I'm just learning about it, where people from the CFPB or the OCC is very much to collaboration with new types of technology, new startups, and also the people who are really large in the space as well. And I guess it's always kind of been like that a little bit.
I would say no. I would say actually it ebbs and flows.
Really?
Yeah, so in 2015, 2016, there was a lot of energy with the regulators of wanting to create even sandboxes, so that and hiring like technology experts so they can kind of assess and help, community banks in particular, but banks in general, have these partnerships and have the partnerships work well. And then as time progressed, a lot of those sandboxes just went to the wayside. The OCC had an Office of Innovation that's kind of, to the wayside. And the OCC kind of issued additional guidance, like voicing some concern with the partnership. So which rightfully so. It's a delicate balance between the staid, regulated, intermediary of banks that have regulations that they have to follow, and they need it all documented, and you need really strong processes and procedures in place. And then innovation technology, where the famous saying of like move fast and break stuff, like that sometimes doesn't work well, just in terms of philosophy. So there is, I think all the regulators understand, for banks and financial institutions to compete and meet the consumer expectations, they need to facilitate these technology relationships. And there's a lot of impressive companies out there that have continued to evolve with this partnership of fintech and finance and technology, and doing the right thing and streamlining archaic and clumsy and non-automated processes. But then with that, and this goes to the topic of like AI and like new technology. So there are frameworks, in place and kind of a playbook that whenever a bank's partnering with a third party that's particularly risky, they, have to do their due diligence and have to be put in place like ongoing oversight. But AI is growing so quickly, and then sometimes it's the black box of not really knowing like where some of the training's going to take you. So it's a balance, and it's one of those where a lot of the regulators and talking about the American Fintech Council, they do love going to summits and learning from the experts of what's expected, what's like I would say like what are the best practices and who are the people doing the right thing, and what should we be worried about, and where should we focus our attention and guidance.
I think I'd agree with that, right? The ebbs and flow. It's you saw a lot of enforcement actions, right, over the past couple of years, and it's their job, right, to say, hey guys, I know you went really fast, tried a lot of stuff, and let's like slow down, really think about what's happening from the consumer's perspective as well as just the macro perspective. And now it's like, all right, we push these out, we're pushing these out, let's kind of come together, see where we can really fix these things to move forward and go back to innovation. And I would definitely agree with that, because the 2016 to 2021 was just crazy time, right? And all things funding and technologies, and obviously like crypto. This is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and that's good.
No, I was just gonna say it's you always get the balance of you have like a lot of adoption, and then there's this time difference, right? So you'll get a lot of adoption, and you'll get certain organizations running quickly, thinking that there's no oversight. And I've even heard this at organizations like, this is an unregulated space, which that's 99% of the time not true. It's just like the individual saying that doesn't appreciate what the regulations are. But then it's like, and this could be like in crypto, I'll say, they run quickly, and then there's catch up from the regulator. So the initial reaction of a regulator, which is the right reaction, is like, slow down so I can get grasp of what the hell is going on. And with a lot of companies, and this is what's fun about, a lot of people won't find this fun. This is what's fun about being like in compliance and legal, is you try to put in the frameworks, the guardrails to make sure they don't run off a cliff, and you put in the processes and you put in the policies so that the company, one, can move quickly within these guardrails, and two, actually tell their compliance story, so that when those items come up, which a good example is using AI for like certain underwriting. When that comes up, you don't have the business folks just saying like, well, it's AI, it's in a black box, it does what it does, like, don't worry about it. So regulators going to be like, no, we're going to worry about it. And then when you have like the compliance officer, attorney like at the table, it's like, oh yes, we realize it's trained on this data, and we're monitoring it this way, so that if there's ever a discrepancy, or if there's ever anything that looks like might be disparate impact or an unintended consequences, we can put the brakes on it pretty quickly, and we're aware of monitoring. Where saying the opposite is not gonna
Yeah, exactly. It's
fly
like,
with any regulator.
Yeah, exactly. We're just letting these models run wild, and I had a conversation at FinTech Meetup, and one of the speakers was saying, it's going to be much more how you view IT oversight, where it's like pen testing. It's like now that's going to be much more within compliance, right? Where it's like, hey, we're monitoring in this way. This is our QA. of our AI with compliance and our oversight and how we're checking it. And it's almost like a another layer on top of that. But that's where I see it going.
I 100% agree, and that's and I've talked to a few like interesting companies, and that's one of my projects is starting a compliance technology company so that it can streamline a lot of
Yeah.
the headaches I had, and just make it kind of drag and drop, very seamless, um, and enhanced with AI because AI does do amazing things, and when it's trained on, regulatory enforcement actions and guidance, like you can trust that it's not going to give you insane answers. So coming up, and I know there's other companies, in particular, there's some people doing some great things with BSA AML compliance and just like your company, like monitoring huge data sets of
Yeah.
communications, which those are the scary spots for compliance. So like being able to tell your compliance story and have this ongoing monitoring and testing and a program that kind of grows with the company is important, and that's what I'm putting out there. But similar to yours, like using AI and using the technology now to consume large amount of data so that the leaders have a better picture of what's going on with the company so that you can make informed decisions. So you can't have, and this is what's great about all the technologies that's coming out. You can't have this static, my compliance management system are, it's in this folder. It's all these policies and procedures that we test on an annual basis.
Yep.
It's, you can leverage the new technology and have it this ongoing testing and monitoring and, the systems raising flags that you wouldn't even really appreciate, like, phone calls where there's complaint after complaint about hidden fees or something. And historically, you won't find out about that until someone files a complaint with the CFPB. But then if
Yep.
you have, a system in place that then flags that for you, you can make informed decisions and you can put your resources to be like, hey, we want to build this great thing. So we've got to figure this out quickly so it's not going to be a headache down the road. And then, with those tools too, you have your compliance officers and your compliance team able to focus on bigger and broader strategic initiatives versus just running around trying to like figure out what the hell is going on at the company with new projects, or like if they're not in a meeting, or if someone's just running quick with a new like rolling out some new scripting or something or new marketing. And I'm surprised like that still happens, and like I appreciate your company where it's sometimes marketing goes out because they have to take advantage of something and
Yeah.
give it out, and like of course there's nothing wrong with it, and it's like there's always something wrong. There's
Yeah.
not
It's
always
like,
something wrong with it, but then you
yeah.
do see like I saw like a mailing go out that had like a official U.S. looking uh, from the U.S. government, which is like you 100% can't do that. It's like, oh, what? It's not really. It
U.S.
just looks
approved,
like
backed by
it.
the U.S. government.
Yeah, yeah. Which is fun. So I'm doing a lot of helping smaller companies kind of start out and giving them kind of just guidance and advisory services. So helping them, spot issues because everybody, rightfully so, like at a startup or in any mature company, you have your different filters because you have the finance person, you have the business development person, you have the tech, you have marketing, and you have your goals, and which is great, but you can move faster and you can scale better. Like if you have an appreciation for the legal compliance framework too, so you have someone that can speak that language and kind of have people pivot or again, like I said, that you just appreciate the guardrails out there, and then you get a system in place because you can't do one-off fixes. So yeah, and that's one, like I'm building the technology system, but even if it's just Google Docs and Jira and the system the technology companies are going to use anyways, like you need that in place so you can actually have a sustainable and actual and workable solution for compliance versus again, like I said, like especially startups, you can't just Google or use ChatGPT to write a
Yep.
bunch of policies and
Yep.
think you're going to show that for due diligence or that that's going to help you at all.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. And I'd love to actually double tap on some of the stuff you're building, right? And it's so funny. A lot of these fintech founders, they'll get something from a large institution they're partnering with that's a 30 pages of okay, and then they'll maybe use ChatGPT, reach out to a third party. But what's so fascinating is, I imagine AI is not replacing compliance officers. There's the people, but it can augment a lot of this, initial pass through, right? And so I love to understand kind of where are you focusing with the product you're building, and what's that magic moment that either that these early stage founders will be like, oh wow, this is really exciting and this is going to be really helpful.
Yeah, so it's organizing, which is in and of itself a huge like undertaking, but like once it's streamlined, it's easy. But it's organizing what you consider like your compliance management system, which
Mm.
there's not real systems out there. It's usually just PDFs and Excel spreadsheets. So it's
The good files.
organizing that and having it where they're all easily interrelated, meaning like you're looking through your policy and then you can click and know that here's the training that ties to this policy. Here's the testing and monitoring that applies to this, and just have this constant uh, feed of your policies, procedures, testing, your own training, and your own like complaint management system, so that
Mm.
it's for everybody in the company. Really, it's streamlined and easy to actually visualize and understand the compliance management system, and you can just you know push a button and have like a presentation ready for anybody at the company, like the CEO, to kind of say like, here's how we're mitigating all the risks at the company. But then
Yep.
enhance with AI so that one, it's monitoring up and coming issues, but also as you know you're using it, or like there's training that people are struggling with, it's going to flag that and come up with suggestions of like how to mitigate that, or this is something you should be focused on, or even like if you're writing or having it help you write a policy, it'll give you like examples and here's something else you should consider, or here's some training that based on the complaints and the issue management that we're tracking, here's some
Hmm.
training that your servicing team definitely needs that you should consider. And then the person can just go in and quickly do a video training and they can build it out later. But like if there's a real issue, like I said before, of people talking about the hidden fees, it's like, all right, we got to train our marketing team and we've got to train like the customer service people on, you know, where there aren't hidden fees and like how this
Hmm.
is spelled out on the
Yep.
website and how we're managing it as a company.
Yep. And that's exactly right. Right. It's you at these early stage fintechs. You maybe have one compliance officer or an outsourced one, and communicating that sort of risk or what needs to be important for the whole company is pretty much impossible to do, right? And kind of where I see a lot of these solutions, I think we talked about this briefly, RA in a box, right? The one of the most valuable features is just having this calendar of okay, this is what I need to be aware of, this is what needs to be top of mind. And now that we're getting so good with LLMs and AI, you can take in so much more data, as well as fix the policies, see the data coming in, and then give proactive feedback, right, to these
Hmm.
these fintechs. And this is, hey guys, this is what you need to think about. This is what you need to be aware of, and also here are some risks as well.
Yeah, like I love that too. Or where it will be, there's the risk assessment that
Hmm.
when you're brainstorming about a new product, you can im put some inputs in and then understand better. Like, oh, I've got to consider marketing. I've got to
Hmm.
consider fair lending in this new product. And
Yep.
then if it's a real small startup that outsources all legal and compliance, I think that's one of the ideal clients, because if you're a partner bank or you're a larger bank, you can have a slew of your platforms like on the system I'm building, and then they can, you can have some comfort, and you can also have some visibility on what they're doing and how they're meeting their
Mm-hmm.
obligations on
Mm-hmm.
an ongoing basis. So you kind of have an ongoing report card of like, here are all the things that you're expecting, and they're all going well, or here are the things you're expecting. This one, the complaint management, just because turn times, it's
Mm-hmm.
trending low. So you might want to reach out and say like, hey guys, you need a better process, you need a better system in place for responding to complaints.
Yeah, and one thing I'll be transparent is just you know you've been doing this for quite you have the experience, you've seen this and you've done this multiple times over, and I think that's super powerful when you get a builder like yourself and also an attorney, a chief compliance officer who's now like, okay, let's really lean into AI and then create like great systems around it. So I think that's where AI is most powerful. It's not like, oh yeah, let's like, hack together a couple LLMs. You need that expertise to really fine tune the models for a unique use case, and that's why I'm
Hmm.
super excited for your product.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, a lot of this has to be curated and then monitored, which
Yep.
you need the experts.
Yeah, exactly. And going into the future, right? What are some of the biggest challenges? I know there's fintechs always have these challenges getting up to speed, but even these larger institutions, as things progress, as things develop, as regulators, seems like they're really on people now. Like, what are some of the biggest challenges you're seeing in the space?
The biggest challenges are, similar to what they've been historically, but moving a little faster, especially when you're an institution that wants to be an early adopter. And it's doing an effective regulatory risk assessment at the beginning. And that requires somebody that really knows ins and out of the particular company and can also understand the product. So that's somewhat of a unique skill set. And
Mm-hmm.
then just being able to tell the regulatory compliance story. Um, that's something that compliance professionals in particular have difficulty doing because we'll say it with like technology companies, but it's really with even large banks that have the arms of the company that are making a lot of money. So there's a view of the risk where there's making sure the company can keep the money that they make, but it's
Mm-hmm.
hard sometimes on a piece of paper to be like, how can I justify you spending money where you're not making us any money? It's like, well, they are
Yep.
making you money. So being able to get resources, and that's technology or just people, uh,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that the end game, and especially if you're trying to be an early adopter and you're trying to get products out there, is going to require it. And that is one of the things I do appreciate and like about the regulators voicing their concerns and voicing their expectations more of having compliance at the table. And that's even like certain consent orders with
Mm-hmm.
Department of Justice or other organizations might push to have the chief compliance officer or somebody on site sign off on, yes, we're checking in and the compliance management system is where it should be, or I have the resources that I need to have, because
Yep.
it's not sexy, but it's not sexy to everyone. It's sexy to the compliance folks, but it's necessary, especially in financial technology. Like the
Yeah.
finance and the role that plays in our society is too important, and you have to protect consumers who can lose a lot if someone's doing the wrong thing. They have to be really aggressive with ensuring that someone's not moving fast and breaking stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
is taking in and has awareness of the risks and has awareness of the responsibilities. And that's a lot of the banks appreciate that they're ultimately responsible for any fintech partners and what they're doing, but they need more tools besides just sending a consultant out there, once a year. They need,
Yeah.
better ongoing awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just like where technology is now and how it keeps on going. There's going to be tools, and I'm helping build a tool that's going to meet that need, and it's I'm excited for compliance professionals, in a couple years where they will have these tools and they'll just, they'll be able to do their job better and be able to help with broader strategy versus always, being left behind. And like,
or
not
fighting
being part of the
fighting with
conversation.
the exec team. It's more like, let me tell a story, guys, and I got all these great tools to have all this great oversight. I completely agree.
Right.
Well, Colin, that was great. Um, really appreciate it. And what we do, we love closed loop systems here at Fridays in FinTech and also Tennis Finance. And so we talked about Domino's. I usually try and give away something different every week, but it seems like you really liked it. So you're going to get a nice little gift card to Domino's for no KYC
Awesome.
required. No KYC required. Yeah, really great having you on here. Also,
I
I
appreciate
know
it.
Colin. Colin also is an amazing artist. I highly recommend checking out some of his art. I watched like tons of videos. It's very therapeutic. He's ambidextrous as well, so he'll do both at the same time. My sister's an artist.
Oh, nice.
But yeah. But Colin, let's end on one thing real quick. What is your favorite book that you recommend to people?
My favorite book that I recommend to people, this, so it's just because it's recent in mine. It's When Breath Turns to Air. It's a sad
I've heard,
book. Have you heard of it? So
I've heard of it.
it,
Yeah.
it's very, it's a doctor that's dying and then kind of writing about that experience, and he's a beautiful writer. And then there's an ending point where the wife comes in, to kind of tell what happens afterward. So it's sad, but one of those like therapeutically sad books, and it's like it's the writer is he's such a beautiful writer too, and it's
Mm.
so philosophical and like goes to your soul. And it's just one of those where my daughter was given the book as like extra credit in high school, so we
Mm.
were driving up north or something, so we all decided to listen to it on Audible, and it's like heart wrenching but like very insightful. So then
Oh,
I recommend it, but if you're
very
crying,
cool.
don't email me.
I might check it out this weekend. But Colin, thanks again for your time. I say very creative mind in art and in compliance. But great chatting, and have a great weekend. Thanks
Thank
again,
you,
Colin.
appreciate it.
All right.
All right, take care, Jake.